One of the coolest surgical procedures that I saw was a tumor being removed from someone's neck. If you are struggling to find work experience for your medical or your dental school application, then I'm going to show you exactly what I did and how this might help you. I'm also going to tell you what I saw and what I did on my placement and the kinds of things that you should be looking out for to make sure that you get the most out of your placement and ensure that you are successful in your application. Like many other students, I really struggled getting work experience. I know that it's quite a tricky thing to do because places have a limit on how many students that they can take, and obviously protecting patients and confidentiality. So making sure that you know what to do and know where to look is really important. When I was applying for medical school, I knew that I was applying to Warwick, and as I say, they have quite strict work experience entry requirements. So I felt like I was under quite a lot of pressure to meet those requirements and to make sure that I had valid and reliable work experience that gave me a lot of insight into what working in medicine was like. For me, work experience was really quite difficult to find and organize, and I remember applying to so many different places and just kept getting rejection, which was really discouraging. But because I knew I had to meet this criteria, I did not give up. I was genuinely so determined to do everything that I had to do in order to have the work experience requirements that I needed. And I remember speaking to a friend who was at medical school at the time, and she said to me that she completely understood and she related to me. But the key was just that, not to give up and to keep applying and applying and applying, even if you've had 100 rejections. So if you are in the same position, then this is an encouragement to not give up and to keep going, to keep applying, and eventually you will get there. And if you'd like more support, we actually have an updated work experience playlist on the FutureDoc channel, where we go into detail on the different aspects of work experience for both medical and dental applications. So make sure that you check that out. Going back to what I did after all of those rejections, I made sure to call people as much as I could. So calling GP practices, calling hospitals, and not just the main switchboard, but calling different departments within hospitals directly. I found that contacting different departments was so much more helpful than contacting just the main switchboard or one person, because you often find that these departments have different people who run and organize the work experience or shadowing placements, so that will increase your chances of getting through to someone. And also, if you call them up, you're much more likely to get an instant response and an answer to whether they do work experience and accept students or not. This is going to be much quicker than if you email them and have to wait for an email response. So that was exactly what I did. I called and called and called, and eventually got a 2-week work experience shadowing placement at the Royal Brompton Hospital in London, shadowing a pediatrics intensive care unit. That was a really, really cool experience where I got to meet some of the pediatric consultants and got to meet lots of members of the team, which gave me a really good understanding of what different healthcare professionals did within a team. And that experience came in really useful when I wrote my personal statement and also when I interviewed. I also did maybe 8 months of volunteering at the Royal London Hospital, and this was during COVID, when people weren't allowed to come into the hospital very much and families weren't allowed to come in to see patients who had been admitted. So I was essentially like the middleman. I would liaise between patients' families and the patients themselves. This experience taught me a lot about responsibility and communication. My third work experience was that I worked as a COVID responder. This again was a voluntary experience where I had an app on my phone and someone would put out a call in my area to say that they needed some help or some support, again during COVID. So I would go and help to do their shopping for them or to pick up medicines from the pharmacy. This was a very public and direct role where again I got to learn loads about communication. And finally, my fourth work experience was that I shadowed a cardiac perfusionist. A perfusionist is the person who operates the perfusion machine, which essentially replaces the heart during open heart surgery. This was a really cool experience for me because I got to spend loads of time in theatres and see some really cool surgeries. One of the coolest surgical procedures that I saw was a patient who had a tumour removed from their neck, and it was being replaced by part of their own quad muscle. And it was just so amazing because they had these huge microscopes in the operating theatre, and they were stitching together the arteries in the neck to the arteries in the quad muscle to give it blood supply. And they had clamped the arteries together to stitch them together. And once that had all been done, they unclamped the arteries to allow the blood to flow back. And everything appeared to be fine for a moment. It was like super tense. And then all of a sudden, the stitches became undone and there was blood flying everywhere. And that was an absolutely terrifying moment. And you hear so much about the importance of teamwork and staying calm under pressure, but I truly learned what that meant that day, because seeing the surgeons remain so calm, seeing everyone just knew exactly what to do and where to go and how to move, it was just incredible to see. It was so tense, but everyone was so calm. And I guess that if they had panicked in that moment, that might have led to that patient losing their life because they were losing a lot of blood. But yeah, absolutely incredible to see. And I guess those are experiences that gave me a real understanding of the pressure and what it takes to be a doctor or a surgeon. What's really interesting about that experience is that I actually asked to go and to be there. It wasn't something that I was scheduled to do or that I was supposed to be in, but because I was curious and because I was really keen and wanted to get involved as much as possible, I asked if I could go into theatre that day. And that's a really good tip. It's okay to ask to be involved and to go and see things, especially once you have a work experience placement at a hospital. There are obviously limits to what students can do, but there's absolutely no harm in asking and trying to get involved and to see as much as possible. Thinking back now on my work experience and what I got to see, having a variety of different experiences and different shadowing placements will really help to give you a well-rounded understanding of what life as a doctor is like. I understood that life as a surgeon was very different to life as a pediatric consultant. And being able to see both of those roles and observe the differences as well as the similarities between them was really eye-opening for me. So having a variety of experiences, even if it's within the same hospital or in the same place, trying to do as much as possible and see as much as possible is really beneficial. And especially now that I've been working as an admissions tutor, I can see the impact that it has on students and how it can affect their chances of success. Again, going back to my personal work experience, I had heard so many different buzzwords before, like patient confidentiality and patient safety and teamwork, but it was only until I was there and I was in it when I was transferring patient belongings from their families up to the patients, or when I was responding to a patient in need in the community. That's when I truly understood what all of those things meant. And that's why the more experience that you can get and the sooner that you start trying to get that experience, the better, because it will allow you to understand those things much sooner. And this in the long term will make you a much stronger applicant. So that was everything when it comes to my personal work experience. I hope that it's given you some encouragement and it's shown you that there are so many different things that you can do. Also remember that it doesn't necessarily have to be in theatres and in surgery and in an intensive care unit for it to be meaningful. You can gain so many useful and meaningful experiences in the community or working in somewhere that isn't as clinical. The main thing is that you learn and that you understand the skills and the qualities that are important for doctors to have. If you would like some help optimizing your work experience or any other aspect of your application, then check out the FutureDoc program, which last year had a 93% success rate with helping students get into medical school. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.